What if I told you that in 1900, most Americans didn't even call addiction a disease, but in 2025, we treat it like a $1 billion industry of rehab centers, medications, and brain science? Sounds unbelievable, right? Here's the paradox. The human brain hasn't changed much in 100 years, but the way addiction controls our lives has become far more sophisticated. This isn't just history. It's the dark psychology of how society, science, and even corporations rewired the meaning of addiction. From the opium dens of San Francisco to the dopamine-driven algorithms in your pocket today. And once you see how deep this shift really goes, you'll never look at addiction past or present the same way again. Think about this for a second. In 1900, if a 25-year-old factory worker in Detroit got hooked on morphine or couldn't stop drinking whiskey, society called it a caricature. People whispered about it in church pews and shamed it behind closed doors. But here's where it gets twisted. Fast forward to 2025, and that same 25-year-old in Los Angeles isn't hiding bottles anymore. They're trapped refreshing Instagram at 3 a.m., chasing dopamine hits from TikTok likes, or sneaking vape bricks in their car during lunch. The costume changed, but the cage feels exactly the same. Maybe you're watching this in your 30s, living in Atlanta, telling yourself you're not addicted to anything, but you can't make it through a single meeting without checking your phone. Or maybe you're in your 50s in Phoenix, convinced you're too mature for this conversation, yet you find yourself mindlessly scrolling Amazon at midnight, buying things you don't need with money you don't have. And if you're in your 60s in Miami, you might think addiction is a young person's game, until you realize those weekend trips to the casino aren't just entertainment anymore. They're something you can't seem to stop. Here's the brutal reality nobody wants to admit. Addiction doesn't care about your zip code, your age, or how successful you think you are. In 1900, it was opium dens in San Francisco's Chinatown and morphine prescribed by family doctors. In 2025, it's opioids engineered in boardrooms, social media algorithms designed by ex-Google employees, and shopping apps that know your spending patterns better than your spouse does. We love to believe addiction is about willpower, that people just need to try harder or make better choices. But here's the dark truth that changes everything. Your brain is hardwired to crave more of whatever made you feel good. It's basic survival programming that kept humans alive for thousands of years. The problem is, in 2025, every corporation from Silicon Valley tech giants to Wall Street pharmaceutical companies has weaponized that ancient brain wiring against you. They've hired neuroscientists, behavioral economists, and addiction specialists, not to help you overcome addiction, but to make their products more addictive. So this isn't just about individual weakness anymore. This is about living in a world where billion-dollar industries have turned your brain's natural reward system into their personal profit machine. And the scariest part? Most people don't even realize it's happening to them. Whether you're 22 and can't put down your phone in Seattle, or 45 and can't stop stress eating in Houston, or 67 and can't resist those scratch-off tickets in Tampa, you're not fighting just addiction anymore. You're fighting a system that profits from keeping you hooked. Point 1. The brain's ancient wiring, the unchanged foundation revealed. The human brain sitting in your skull right now is virtually identical to the brain of a 25-year-old factory worker in 1900s Detroit. We're still running on the exact same neurological software that evolved over thousands of years. That ancient wiring craves three things: food, safety, and pleasure rewards. Picture this. Back in 1900, if you walked through the streets of Boston or Philadelphia, addiction looked like a Civil War veteran stumbling out of an opium den, or a dock worker drowning his sorrows in whiskey after a 16-hour shift. Doctors freely prescribed morphine for headaches, and thousands of people became unknowingly dependent. But society had no clue this was brain chemistry in action. They labeled it moral weakness, a complete failure of character. Fast forward to 2025. That identical wiring is still firing in your head. But now, instead of just bottles and syringes, addiction comes disguised as glowing screens, perfectly timed push notifications, and algorithmically engineered dopamine hits. The brain hasn't evolved one bit, but the world around it has become a sophisticated psychological weapon designed to exploit your most primitive reward circuits. 5. The dopamine economy. How pleasure became weaponized. Let's decode dopamine, the chemical that literally controls your motivation. In 1900, dopamine rewards were simple and scarce. A hot meal after a long day, a beer with friends, maybe a card game on Sunday. If you were a 30-year-old steel worker in Pittsburgh, your biggest addictions might be poker nights and weekend drinking. Basic pleasures, limited access. But in 2025, welcome to the dopamine economy, where billion-dollar corporations have found a way to endlessly monetize your brain's reward system. A 16-year-old in Miami can scroll TikTok for 6 hours straight, each like and comment delivering a carefully timed hit of dopamine. A 45-year-old marketing executive in Seattle gets hooked on Amazon's one-click purchasing because every package arrival triggers a surge of dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. Even a 72-year-old retiree in Las Vegas finds themselves trapped in digital slot machines, programmed by neuroscientists to deliver dopamine hits at unpredictable intervals, the most addictive reward schedule known to one. Science. Here's the terrifying truth. Dopamine doesn't make you happy. It makes your brain scream, "Do it again." In Silicon Valley, Wall Street, and every major corporation has weaponized this knowledge against you. Addiction isn't accidental anymore. It's precisely engineered by teams of behavioral economists and brain scientists. 3. From stigma to industry, the monetization of human suffering. Here's a paradox that will blow your mind. In 1900, if you were addicted to anything, society cast you into the shadows. You might be locked away in an asylum, hidden by your family's shame, or left to die in back alley opium dens. Addiction was society's dirty secret. But in 2025, addiction has become America's most profitable industry. Luxury rehab centers in Malibu charge $100,000 per month, while pharmaceutical giants in New Jersey make billions selling medications to treat the same opioid addictions their industry helped create. Even the self-help economy, books, courses, apps, and online programs generates massive profits from your desperate struggle to break free. What was once taboo and hidden has been transformed into a sophisticated business model. Companies profit from getting you addicted, other companies profit from treating your addiction, and still others profit from selling you the promise of recovery. Addiction didn't just evolve, it became the foundation of a multi-billion-dollar industry. -4, the invisible epidemic hiding in plain sight. But here's the most dangerous twist. Today's deadliest addictions are completely invisible. In 1900, you could easily spot addiction. The drunk stumbling out of a San Francisco saloon, the morphine addict with glassy eyes and shaking hands. The opium user collapsed in a Chinatown den. Addiction wore obvious masks. In 2025, addiction hides behind the facade of normal life. That 28-year-old software engineer in Austin who checks his phone 200 times a day. That 35-year-old mother in Phoenix who can't stop buying things online she doesn't need. That 55-year-old executive in Chicago who lies awake until 3 a.m. scrolling through LinkedIn and news feeds. They don't look addicted, they look like productive members of society. But inside their brains, the exact same neural circuits that once drove opium cravings are being hijacked by Wi-Fi signals, algorithms, and pixels on screens. The addiction is invisible, but the psychological damage is devastating. Point 5. The knowledge trap. Why understanding doesn't equal freedom. Here's the psychological trap that changes everything. Addiction now evolves faster than our ability to defend against it. In 1900, society didn't even have the vocabulary to explain addiction as neurochemistry. People said, "He's morally weak, she lacks self-control." By 2025, we have the complete scientific picture. We can show you brain scans, explain dopamine pathways, even predict relapse patterns with machine learning algorithms. But here's the brutal reality. Knowledge doesn't equal escape. A 22-year-old college student in Boston knows Instagram is designed to be addictive, but still scrolls for hours every night. A 40-year-old accountant in Dallas understands that online gambling algorithms are rigged against him, but can't stop placing bets. A 65-year-old grandmother in Florida knows prescription opioids are dangerous, but panics when her pill bottle runs low. They still do it because addiction operates below the level of conscious choice. It's more powerful than logic, stronger than shame, and it hijacks the oldest survival wiring in your brain using the most sophisticated technology in human history. 16. The cultural apocalypse, when individual addiction becomes societal collapse. And here's where this story becomes truly terrifying. In 2025, it's destroying entire cultures and societies. Look around. Opioid overdoses killing more Americans than car accidents in Ohio. Digital addiction creating epidemic levels of anxiety and depression among teenagers in Los Angeles. Social media addiction contributing to political polarization that's tearing apart communities from Seattle to Miami. A century ago, the problem often felt contained to a physical place like a saloon. Today, the saloon is in everyone's pocket. Buzzing with notifications designed by teams of neuroscientists to trigger addictive responses every few minutes. The final reveal is this: addiction as a psychological phenomenon hasn't changed. The human brain's vulnerability hasn't changed, but the battlefield has been completely transformed. And unless we learn to recognize and fight back against this invisible war, the addictions of 2025 will make the struggles of 1900 look like a children's playground. End quote. So what's the patch? How do you protect the brain that's evolutionarily wired for survival, but trapped in a world deliberately engineered for addiction? Here's your 4-step psychological defense system. Step 1. Engineered friction. Make addiction inconvenient again. Create intentional barriers between you and your triggers. In 1900, a dock worker in Boston had to physically walk 6 blocks to reach the nearest saloon.
That journey created natural friction. Time to reconsider. Time for the craving to fade. In 2025, your casino lives in your pocket. Your shopping addiction is one Amazon click away, and your social media dopamine hit requires zero effort. So you must rebuild that friction artificially. If you're a 28-year-old in Seattle struggling with phone addiction, put your device in a different room overnight.
If you're a 45-year-old in Phoenix battling online gambling, install website blockers and give the password to someone you trust. If you're a 62-year-old in Miami hooked on home shopping networks, unplug your TV during vulnerable hours. Make the destructive choice require effort while making the healthy choice automatic. Step 2. Dopamine replacement therapy. Hijack your own reward system. Never just remove an addiction, always replace the neurochemical reward. A 22-year-old college student in Austin can't just delete TikTok cold turkey because their brain will desperately search for alternative dopamine sources. The key is strategic substitution. Replace mindless scrolling with a 10-minute walk around your neighborhood. Your brain gets movement-based endorphins instead of algorithmic manipulation. If you're a 35-year-old parent in Denver stress shopping online, swap that credit card swipe for organizing a single drawer in your house. You get the satisfaction of completion without financial damage. If you're a 50-year-old in Chicago using alcohol to unwind, try a hot bath with Epsom salts and calming music. Your nervous system gets the relaxation it craves through healthy channels. Step 3. Community immunity. Addiction dies in connection. In 1900, society isolated and shamed addicts, which only strengthened their psychological prison. In 2025, shame still doesn't work, but authentic connection is addiction's kryptonite. If you're a 26-year-old in Portland struggling with gaming addiction, find one local meetup group focused on outdoor activities. If you're a 43-year-old single parent in Atlanta battling prescription drug dependency, connect with a counselor who understands both the neurochemical and emotional aspects of your struggle. If you're a 67-year-old retiree in Tampa trapped in compulsive gambling, join a recovery group where people share similar stories without judgment. Addiction thrives in isolation and secrecy, but it withers when exposed to genuine human connection and accountability. Step 4. Neuroplasticity micro-victories. Rewire through small wins. Your brain's addiction pathways were carved through repetition, so healing happens through opposite repetition. The psychology is clear. Your brain loves streaks, patterns, and incremental progress. If you're battling social media addiction, celebrate making it 1 hour without checking your phone. If you're overcoming emotional spending habits, celebrate choosing to wait 24 hours before any non-essential purchase. If you're breaking free from substance dependency, celebrate each day of choosing water over alcohol. These aren't meaningless small steps. They're neuroplasticity training sessions, literally rewiring your brain's reward pathways toward freedom instead of captivity. The ultimate truth about recovery. Here's what changes everything. You can't erase the brain's ancient reward system. It's part of what kept our species alive. But you can absolutely outsmart it by building intelligent friction. strategically replacing dopamine sources, leveraging community connection, and stacking micro victories into major transformations. You turn the exact same neural wiring that once enslaved you into the psychological foundation that sets you completely free. The addiction industry spent billions of dollars and decades of research learning how to hack your brain. Now you have the defensive playbook to hack it back. So let's lock this in. In 1900, addiction hid behind saloon doors and morphine bottles and family medicine cabinets. In 2025, it's camouflaged inside glowing screens, push notifications, and prescription pills with billion-dollar marketing campaigns. First, your brain is running identical software from 1900, but the psychological battlefield has been completely incriminated, weaponized against you. Second, we exposed how Silicon Valley and Wall Street corporations literally turned your dopamine pathways into their personal profit machine. And third, we armed you with the four-step defense system: engineer friction, replace rewards, leverage community connection, and stack micro-victories. But here's the question that's going to haunt you. Which addiction epidemic is more dangerous? The visible addictions of 1900 that society could see in shame, or the invisible addictions of 2025 that hide behind the mask of normal productivity and social connection? Drop your answer in the comments below. Are we facing a more dangerous addiction crisis now than our great-grandparents did? I genuinely want your perspective, because your insights could spark our next psychological deep dive. And listen, if this video cracked open your understanding of how billion-dollar industries are literally hacking your brain's reward system, then you need to hit that subscribe button right now. Because we're not just creating entertainment here, we're building a psychological defense arsenal against the hidden forces that are quietly controlling your daily decisions. This has been your brain software update. Now go out there and start systematically patching your mental operating system.